It was 6:47 p.m., and Emma was locking up her little apartment after a long day. The sunlight was soft, casting golden streaks through the trees outside. She had planned to make a quiet evening for herself, maybe catch up on a book. But sometimes, life has a way of throwing the unexpected in your path. Her neighbor, Daniel, lived across the hall. They had exchanged polite hellos for months, but never much more. Today, though, he was standing outside his door with a small smile and a plate in his hands. "Hey, Emma," he said, a little hesitant. "I baked too much again. Thought you might want some." Emma blinked. She had seen him rushing around with groceries and cooking experiments before, but this felt different, warmer somehow. She took the plate, their fingers brushing briefly. A spark of awkwardness, but not unpleasant, lingered. "Thanks," she said, genuinely. "That's really kind of you." He shrugged, still smiling. "I don't want it to go to waste. Also, I was thinking, maybe you could come over for a minute, just to chat." A minute? That sounded harmless. But as Emma glanced at her quiet hallway, the soft, fading sunlight, she felt a strange pull. Something about Daniel's invitation made her curious. Maybe it was the kindness in his eyes. Maybe it was the subtle way he made ordinary things feel special. She nodded. "Sure, I guess a minute won't hurt." Inside his apartment, the scent of fresh bread and spices greeted her. It was cozy, lived in, and had that subtle warmth that made you feel at home immediately. Daniel gestured toward the kitchen table. "Sit, please." Emma sat, noticing how neat, yet personal everything felt. Photos of him with friends and family were scattered around, but not in an odor-bearing way. It was intimate without trying too hard. They talked about small things first. Work, the weather, favorite TV shows. But soon, the conversation deepened. Emma found herself sharing little pieces of her day she hadn't thought anyone would care about. Daniel listened like he really wanted to understand, nodding, asking gentle questions. She realized how rare it was to connect like this with someone. It felt simple, yet significant. Just two neighbors, sharing a moment. And yet, there was a quiet tension, a delicate awareness of something new hovering in the air. Emma smiled, feeling that flutter in her chest she hadn't felt in months. Daniel laughed softly at one of her stories, and it sounded like music, unexpected, warm, and comforting. Time slipped by faster than she expected. What she had thought would be a minute turned into an hour. She glanced at the clock and realized it was already 7:45 p.m. "I didn't expect to stay this long," she said, laughing softly. "Time just escaped me." Daniel smiled, his eyes lingering on hers for just a moment longer than usual. Sometimes time has a way of doing that when the company is good. Emma felt her heart skip. There was a sincerity in his tone she couldn't ignore. She wanted to leave, but also didn't. It was that strange, magnetic pull that made her want to stay just a little longer. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. The evening light outside had dimmed into a soft, dusky blue. Emma realized she didn't remember the last time a simple visit felt so alive. And as she looked around Daniel's cozy apartment, she couldn't shake the feeling that something unexpected, something life-changing was just beginning. And then Daniel reached for something on the shelf. He pulled out an old photo album. "I don't usually show this to anyone," he said quietly, a little shy, "but I think you might like it." Emma felt a sudden rush of curiosity and nervousness. What secrets or memories were hidden in those pages? And why did the idea of seeing them make her heart race? As she leaned closer to look, the room felt smaller, warmer, and strangely intimate. The soft glow from the lamp highlighted the corners of the apartment, shadows dancing gently along the walls. And in that quiet, cozy space, Emma realized one thing. Her simple visit had already turned into something far more meaningful than she could have imagined. But just as she turned the first page of the album, Daniel hesitated, his hand resting lightly on the corner. His eyes met hers with a seriousness that made her pulse quicken. Would she find the memories comforting, or would they change everything between them? The photo album was just the beginning, and Emma had no idea how much her evening was about to shift. Emma's fingers hesitated over the edge of the photo album. The cover felt worn, the pages soft under her touch. Daniel watched her quietly, as if giving her permission to explore, yet cautious not to push too fast. The first photo was of a younger Daniel, maybe 16 or 17, standing with his younger sister in a sunlit park. Both of them were laughing, caught in a perfect moment. Emma felt an unexpected warmth in her chest, seeing him like this, vulnerable, happy, real. "These are old," Emma said softly. Daniel nodded. "Yeah, my mom gave them to me after she moved. I don't really show them often, not to anyone." Emma glanced at him, noticing the faint hint of shyness in his eyes. "I feel honored, honestly." He smiled, a small, gentle curve of his lips. "It's nice to have someone to share them with. I usually just keep them tucked away." As she turned the pages, Emma saw snapshots of birthday parties, family gatherings, and quiet, candid moments. Daniel with friends, laughing over a barbecue, his sister blowing out candles, even a few of him alone, staring at the camera with a thoughtful expression. This is beautiful," she said, her voice low. "I can see how much love is in these moments, and how much you care about family." Daniel shrugged, but there was a faint blush on his cheeks. "I do. I just don't always talk about it. Life gets busy, you know?" Emma nodded. She did know. Work, responsibilities, routines, they all had a way of pushing people's hearts into quiet corners. Yet here he was, showing her pieces of his life he didn't usually reveal, pieces that felt precious. The next photo made her pause. It was Daniel alone, standing on a beach at sunset. His face was contemplative, almost melancholy, and the ocean stretched endlessly behind him. "Where is this?" Emma asked. "That was 2 years ago," Daniel said softly, his eyes distant. "I came here to think about everything that had happened, about what I wanted." Emma felt a pang of curiosity mixed with empathy. "And did you find what you were looking for?" He looked at her then, really looked at her, and for a moment the room seemed charged with something unspoken. "Maybe not everything," he said quietly, "but I started to realize some things about myself." Emma's heart thumped. There was a vulnerability in him that made the air feel heavier, more intimate. She wanted to ask more, but somehow the words wouldn't come. They sat in silence for a moment, the soft hum of the apartment filling the space. The lamp cast warm light across the pages, making each photo seem alive. "Do you ever feel like some moments, some people just appear in your life at exactly the right time?" Daniel asked suddenly. Emma blinked, caught off guard. I think so. Sometimes it's hard to explain, but yes." He nodded slowly, his gaze dropping back to the album. "I think that's what's happening tonight." A shiver ran down her spine, though it wasn't cold. It was anticipation, the quiet awareness that something was shifting between them. Emma turned another page. A photo of Daniel with a guitar made her smile. "I didn't know you played." "I used to. A lot," he said, a hint of nostalgia in his voice. "It's been a while since I picked it up, though." The conversation continued like this, soft, thoughtful, and revealing. Each image sparked a story, And each story made Emma feel closer to him. She realized that this simple visit, which had seemed so ordinary, was transforming into something extraordinary. Then, as she reached the final pages, she noticed something tucked between them, a small, folded note. She picked it up carefully. Daniel's voice was quiet behind her. "That is something I never thought I'd share. Not yet, anyway." Emma unfolded the note, her eyes scanning the words. It was a letter, written in neat handwriting. It spoke of hopes, dreams, regrets, and longing. It spoke of Daniel's journey to understanding himself and of the loneliness he had sometimes felt. Her chest tightened. The words were deeply personal, yet somehow meant for her eyes. She felt a wave of emotion, honesty, vulnerability, and something more she couldn't quite name. "Why? Why are you showing me this?" Emma asked softly, her voice trembling just slightly. "Because," he said, leaning against the doorway, "sometimes you meet someone who makes you want to share parts of yourself you usually keep hidden, and I think I've met that someone tonight." Emma felt her heart skip a beat. She looked down at the note again, then back at him. The room felt smaller, warmer, as if the walls themselves were leaning in to listen. And in that moment, she realized that the evening had become more than just a casual visit. It had turned into a connection, fragile and luminous, that neither of them could ignore. But as she looked into his eyes, she noticed a flicker of hesitation, as though he was holding back something else, something that could change everything between them. The soft glow from the lamp seemed to cast shadows that whispered of secrets still untold. Would the rest of the night reveal truths that would deepen their bond, or shake it in ways neither of them expected? The room felt almost sacred in its quiet warmth. Emma held the note tightly, her fingers brushing the edges of the paper as if it contained a piece of Daniel's soul. He watched her, his expression open but guarded, like he was trusting her with something fragile. "I've never let anyone read that," he said softly. "Not even my closest friends. It's hard to explain why I'm sharing it now." Emma shook her head gently. "I think I understand. You feel like I'm someone you can be honest with, someone who will listen without judgment." He nodded, relief flickering in his eyes. "Exactly. And I don't usually meet people like that, people who really see you." She felt a lump in her throat. There was a tenderness in his words that made her chest ache with a mixture of excitement and fear. She wanted to reach out, to close the distance, but wasn't sure if he wanted that. "Daniel," she whispered, "I feel the same way. Somehow, just being here, it feels right." He smiled, a small, genuine curve of his lips that made her heart skip. "I was afraid you'd think I was oversharing, that it would be too much." Emma shook her head. "No, not at all. I feel honored that you trust me like this." For a moment, the world outside the apartment faded. There was no hallway, no neighbors, no distant city noise. There was only them, two people who had met by chance, drawn together by something neither fully understood yet. Daniel gestured toward the couch. "Do you want to sit? It's more comfortable than standing over the album." Emma nodded, moving to the couch. As they sat side by side, the lamp's soft glow illuminating their faces, she noticed how close he was. Close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. Close enough that the space between them seemed charged, as if it could collapse at any moment. They talked more about dreams, hopes, and little embarrassing moments from their pasts. Laughter mingled with serious reflection, creating a rhythm that felt both natural and rare. Emma felt a connection she hadn't anticipated, She realized she hadn't experienced this kind of emotional intimacy in a long time. Then Daniel paused, glancing at the photo albums still open on the coffee table. "There's one more story," he said quietly, "about a moment that changed how I saw things." Emma's curiosity piqued. What kind of moment? He took a deep breath, his eyes meeting hers. "It was a night, much like tonight, actually. I was at a small cafe with a friend. I didn't know it then, but something about that evening made me realize I'd been closing myself off from life, from people, from connections, and I promised myself I wouldn't do that anymore." Emma felt a shiver run down her spine. The way he spoke made it feel personal, as though he was speaking to her directly, not just telling a story. "And now?" she asked softly. "And now," he hesitated, searching for the right words, "I feel like I'm ready to take chances, to open up, to let someone in." Her heart thumped in her chest. The moment felt delicate, suspended on a thread between courage and fear. Emma wanted to tell him she felt the same pull, the same desire to see where this could go. Instead, she reached for his hand gently. His fingers twitched slightly at her touch, and then he took her hand fully, holding it as if he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. The connection was electric, yet tender. Not overwhelming, not sudden, but gentle, deliberate, and filled with unspoken understanding. They sat together in that quiet apartment, hands entwined, letting the world fade around them. Emma realized that a simple visit had transformed into something neither of them had expected, but both had silently hoped for. Minutes passed like hours, each second deepening the bond they felt. Daniel leaned back slightly, still holding her hand, his thumb brushing lightly against her knuckles. Emma felt a flutter of nervous excitement mixed with warmth. She wanted to ask him something, but before she could speak, he looked toward the window. "Emma, I should probably tell you something," he said, his voice low but serious. Her stomach tightened. "What is it?" Daniel hesitated, his eyes reflecting a mixture of anticipation and caution. "It's about why I moved here, why I started inviting people into my life after years of keeping to myself. It's a story I haven't shared with anyone." Emma felt her breath catch. The evening had already revealed so much, yet she sensed this next revelation could change everything. As he paused, she realized she was holding her breath, waiting for the truth that had brought him to this moment, and to her. Daniel's eyes held hers, steady, but carrying a depth of emotion she hadn't seen before. He took a slow breath, as if preparing himself to step into something he had long avoided. "When I moved here," he began quietly, "it wasn't just for work or convenience. There was a reason I chose this building, this city, even this neighborhood." Emma tilted her head, curious but patient. She could sense the weight behind his words. "What reason?" she asked softly. He hesitated, then gestured toward the couch, inviting her to sit closer. "I needed a fresh start, something clean, something that could help me leave the past behind." Emma nodded, sensing the gravity of his confession. "The past can be heavy," she said, "but sometimes it leads us to exactly where we need to be." Daniel smiled faintly, a touch of relief in it. "Exactly, but more than that, there was someone who inspired me to take that leap. Someone who reminded me that life doesn't wait for anyone, that if you want connection, you have to be brave enough to let it in." Emma's heart fluttered. There was something in the way he said it, in the way his gaze softened, that made her pulse quicken. She wanted to ask who that person was, but she sensed it might be her. I didn't know it then, Daniel continued, but I was holding back from people, from love, from friendship, and I realized I couldn't do that anymore. I had to let someone see me, really see me, and I think I found that someone tonight. Emma felt a rush of emotion. The connection between them felt tangible now, like an invisible thread pulling them closer. She looked down at their hands, still intertwined, and then back at him. "Daniel," she whispered, "I feel the same. I've felt it since I walked in. Something about tonight, it's special." He smiled, relief and joy mingling in his expression. "I'm glad you feel it too. I was afraid I'd scare you away with all of this." Emma shook her head. "You could never scare me away. You're honest, real, and that's rare." The room fell into a comfortable silence. Outside, the city lights began to twinkle, and the soft hum of distant traffic filled the space. Inside, it felt like they were in a world of their own, separate from everything else. Then Daniel leaned forward slightly, his eyes searching hers. "There's one more thing," he said quietly. "Something I've been hesitant to admit, even to myself." Emma's heart beat faster. "What is it?" He took a deep breath. "I moved here hoping maybe I'd meet someone like you, someone who could understand me, who could share life with me. I didn't know it would happen so soon, or feel this intense, but it did." Emma felt her chest tighten. She hadn't expected him to confess this so openly, yet hearing it made her feel an overwhelming sense of connection. "I think," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "that sometimes the universe puts people in your path for a reason, and maybe tonight that reason is you." Daniel's eyes softened, a mixture of awe and tenderness reflected in them. "I think you might be right." They sat together, words unnecessary for a few moments, just letting the quiet warmth of the apartment and the closeness between them speak. Emma realized that the night had already shifted something inside her. The simple visit she had planned had become an unexpected journey into Daniel's past, into his heart, and into the possibility of something beautiful. Then, as if the universe had timed it perfectly, the soft chime of Daniel's phone interrupted the moment. He picked it up, glanced at the screen, and his expression changed slightly, subtle but enough to make Emma notice. "It's someone from my past," he said quietly, slipping the phone back into his pocket. "I wasn't expecting to hear from them tonight." Emma's stomach fluttered. There was a tension now, an unspoken question hanging in the air. Would this call bring closure, or would it stir up memories and challenges that could affect the fragile bond forming between them? She felt her heart tighten, realizing that even as the night had brought them closer, it might also bring complications neither of them had anticipated. And in that soft, golden light of the apartment, Emma knew one thing for certain. Tonight had changed everything, but the story wasn't over yet. The soft glow of the apartment wrapped around them like a gentle embrace. Daniel's brief distraction with his phone lingered in the air, but Emma didn't pull away. She sensed that whatever had just arrived from his past was part of the life he was sharing with her now, and that she could face it with him. He finally spoke, his voice calm but careful. "That call, it was from someone I used to be close with. I wasn't expecting it, and honestly, I wasn't sure how to respond." Emma nodded, reaching for his hand again. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together. You're not alone tonight, or after tonight." Daniel looked at her, eyes soft, and gave a small, grateful smile. "I didn't realize how much I needed to hear that, to feel that I could trust someone so quickly." Emma squeezed his hand. "Trust isn't about time. It's about feeling safe, being seen. And I see you, Daniel, all of you. He exhaled, letting a tension she hadn't even noticed ease from his shoulders. I think that's the first time I've truly felt understood in years. For a while, they just sat together, letting the quiet hum of the apartment and the distant city night fill the room. Emma noticed how natural it felt, how effortless it was to be near him, to share the space, the silence, and the small, lingering touches of connection. Then Daniel leaned slightly forward, a spark of warmth in his eyes. I know tonight was unexpected, a simple visit, right? But somehow it became something more, something I'll remember for a long time. Emma smiled, her heart fluttering. It did, and I think it's only the beginning. They spent the next hour sharing small stories, laughter, and thoughtful confessions. Each anecdote, each shared memory, made them feel closer, like they were discovering hidden layers of each other. Emma realized that life sometimes arranged these moments with perfect timing, bringing people together who didn't even know they were meant to meet. Outside, the moonlight spilled through the windows, casting a silver glow over the apartment. Emma watched Daniel's face, noticing the subtle softening of his expression, the way he relaxed in her presence. And in that quiet, luminous moment, she felt a profound sense of possibility. Daniel broke the silence. Emma, would you like to stay for a little longer, just until the night feels complete? Emma hesitated briefly, then nodded. I'd like that. They moved to the couch again, closer now, hands still intertwined. Neither of them spoke immediately. They didn't need to. The room held a warmth and intimacy that words couldn't capture. Emma felt the steady rhythm of his hand against hers, and a quiet courage settled in her heart. Minutes turned into hours, but it didn't matter. Time had a different rhythm here, a slower, deeper pulse, where each glance, each laugh, each gentle touch felt monumental. She realized that the night had shifted her perspective, showing her how even the smallest actions, like a neighborly visit, could lead to extraordinary moments of connection. Finally, Daniel spoke, voice low but sincere. I don't want this night to end. Not really. Not with us here, like this. Emma smiled softly. Neither do I. And I think we can make sure it doesn't have to. He looked at her then, the city lights reflecting in his eyes, a quiet hope shining through. I'd like that, to see where this goes, to explore everything that's possible between us. Emma felt her chest swell with warmth and anticipation. She leaned slightly closer. Me too. Outside, the city seemed calm, as if it knew something had shifted inside this small apartment. The stars twinkled faintly above, silent witnesses to the start of something tender, fragile, and profoundly real. And in that quiet, intimate space, Emma realized that a simple visit had indeed turned into something truly amazing. The evening had brought honesty, vulnerability, and a connection neither of them expected, but both had secretly hoped for. As the night drew on, they sat together, hands still intertwined, hearts quietly aligned. And Emma understood something essential. Sometimes, the most ordinary moments could transform life entirely, if only you were open enough to notice and brave enough to embrace them. The apartment felt alive with promise, the kind of promise that comes only once in a lifetime. And both of them knew that tonight was not just an ending, it was the very beginning of a beautiful, shared story. The quiet city beyond the windows carried on as it always did, but inside, two hearts had found a rhythm, a gentle harmony that would carry them forward together. And for Emma and Daniel, that was all that mattered. The night, the connection, and the possibilities stretched before them like an open horizon, inviting, thrilling, and entirely theirs. The story of a simple visit had become the story of a lifetime.